each one of these mounts that you see on the wall has its own story,
Oh,
has
yeah.
its own meaning, has its own, and that story is going to be passed down.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Hook One Pod. Hey, we're here. We're here in the fish studio. We're in the fish studio with Miss Lexi Vaughn. What's going on?
How are ya? Glad to be here.
We're very happy to have you. I came in the other day. We were talking some business, and I was looking around at everything. You guys only get like a small picture of it here, but I was looking around at everything in here, and I'm like, hey, you got to come let me do a podcast in here. You've got a really cool story. You've been really in the outdoors, fishing and hunting since day one.
Yeah, yep. Got started real young doing that.
So why don't you talk to our listeners here? I'm sure a lot of them are familiar with you. I'm sure they've seen your work. You do an awesome job. You're on Facebook, you're on TikTok, you're on Instagram. We were talking a little bit about that earlier,
Yep.
about how overwhelming it can be to try and keep up with everything. But why don't you let the customers know a little bit about kind of who you are, what got you into the outdoors, and what do you enjoy? Is it more hunting? Is it more fishing? Because you've been on some really cool trips that we'll touch on later on.
Yeah, so it started from a really young age. Definitely my dad got me into it a lot just because he's really big into the outdoors. He loves to hunt, he loves to fish. Him and I are kind of two peas in a pod when it comes to doing things together. If he was going out to do something, I was usually tagging along going with him. So that's really how I got started. And then really how I got do we want to talk about how I got into taxidermy?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
Let her
so
rip.
the way that started actually is interesting, and it's not like how you would think. Honestly, it's not like I woke up one day or I had this lifelong dream of, man, I want to do taxidermy when I grow
Mhm.
up. That's not how it started at all. So basically, I've been doing it about 7 years now, maybe a little bit more, and it was around the time when I first got started into it. My dad had started woodworking and carving
Yeah, you
decoys.
beat me to it because that's something I really wanted to touch on. Like, your dad is an unbelievable decoy carver,
Yes.
decoy painter.
Yeah.
Like, his decoys are unreal.
Right.
I figured that might have had something to do with it. So,
That was actually what started all of it, to be honest.
really,
Yeah, because he got into the woodworking and decoy carving, and he has his own wood shop, that he tinkers around in or whatever. And I remember I was down with him one day watching him carve a decoy, and he had some taxidermy catalogs and paint catalogs laying around, and I was just flipping through it like it was a magazine, whatever. And I happened upon the section in the catalog where it had like reptile reproductions and fish reproductions and stuff.
yep.
And I was like, wow, this is really cool because you know what? It's like, I mean, at the time, I've always really loved art growing up. Anything art related, drawing, painting, sculpting. I knew growing up for sure whatever I was gonna end up doing was gonna be art related.
Yep.
So seeing these replicas, in my mind, I'm like, well, this is just a blank canvas. Like you really, like you could just order anything you want. You could just paint it however.
Yes.
So I was really intrigued about it in that sense. And I had asked him about it, and he was like, we had gotten onto the topic of taxidermy, and he had a buddy that owned a local shop nearby, and he was like, "Well, I could take you by one day," and I'm
Hmm.
like, "Yeah, like let's go. I want to go check it out. I want to go see it." So we ended up going there, and it's funny, and I had mentioned this before. I always tell this story, but I'm pretty sure his buddy was more interested in talking and catching up with my dad than he was just, answering my little questions and stuff, whatever. Because,
Exactly.
it was my senior year of high school, so I was still in high school at the time, going, you know, and I, I had asked for a job, and I think he was a little hesitant at first, just because 18-year-old me and high school kid.
Yeah.
He's like, what is
It's not typically the high school girls' route of choice.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I don't. It's nothing that I really shied away from, and it was honestly, other than the taxidermy aspect of it, I've been around it my whole life. My dad's
Yeah.
got mounts in the house. I've been around people who've hunted and fished, as long as I can remember. So I remember asking for a part-time job, and at that point, he had just let me. I was sweeping the floors, doing dumpster duty, cleaning up blood, skinning heads, doing little things like that before I really decided, like, you know what, this is something that I'm interested in. This is
Yeah.
something that I want to pursue.
If you can't do, and this is advice for any job anywhere. I mean, I give it the same to charter captains. I give the same to anyone that tries to get into our industry or any industry, if you can't handle the low points of it or doing like the horrible part of the work,
Right.
then you don't deserve to enjoy, the good part of the work or seeing the finished product. Because like you just look around in the store and this place is like spotless for.
Well, I cleaned it yesterday because I knew,
Fair enough. Fair enough. But
it's not like this all the time.
well, no, but it's always clean and tidy because that's what you learned, right? Like there's not going to be blood on your floor when
No,
customers walk
definitely
in.
not. No,
Right.
definitely not.
So it's
I have
like,
a candle lit over there because I'm a girl at the end of the day. I got candles in here.
yeah, you don't want to smell like dead walleyes.
No,
And
right.
yeah, I don't blame you.
No, some days it gets real raunchy though, for sure. Like if I have a fish skinning day or doing anything like that, you can say it smells like fish in here for sure.
Yeah, you probably can't avoid it. One day I walked in, I think there was like 6 iguanas in here on the floor. I was like, whoa. I was like, this has a weird smell in here.
Yes.
Like, yeah, it's tanning day or whatever you were doing that day. I was like, holy cow.
Yeah, freezer clean out day is always a good one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think though you put it perfect because like, my wife and I, we fish a lot. We have one of your mahis in our house. We have one of your brown trout in our house. We've got a Jack Crevel because Allie must have her Jack. I've got a stud lake trout ready to be mounted. And because it was her turn to get a fish, we've got to do both.
Yeah,
I'm fine with it. But you said it perfectly because I said it to you way back when, like, this is my art. Like, I'm not going to go buy, a fancy painting or this big, picture of even like a big picture of Lake St. Clair. Like, that's even more my style, but I'd rather have a 6-pound large or smallmouth.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, I'd rather have a 10-pound walleye. I'd rather have these freshwater fish, 15-inch perch. Like, that to me is art.
No, right. And I mean, however you want to decorate your house, because you could walk into a house and it's decorated with art prints or whatever, some people collect art in that sense. This is kind of like our version of collecting art, except I think, and this is not to say anything more than what it is, but I think that this type of art's a little bit different in the sense that it holds memories.
Yeah.
It holds something a little bit more superficial than you were just walking through a store, you saw a painting that you liked and you want it in your house. You know what I mean? Because each one of these mounts that you see on the wall has its own story.
Oh, yeah.
Has its own meaning, has its own, and that story is going to be passed down for years to come, whether it's generational or it's, something like that. So,
and I know a lot of times, like these mounts, once they go home and they get to their home, underneath them are usually pictures of that day. And like, I can speak to that. Like we walk out of our room and we see our mahi there and it's my wife's mahi. I say it's ours, but it's Allie's mahi.
Right.
And you walk out there and you see that fish and it literally takes me back to the back deck of the Cloud 9 out of Bud and Mary's in Isla Mirada in 2016 with deep blue water and a cooler full of fish. Like that's what it does. Like the lake trout that you're working on for me. Like that was a 10-hour turn and burn with a really good buddy of mine. And we drove up to the UP, fished it with 2 more really good buddies. And now I'm going to look at that fish and it's like, to some people, that's a giant lake trout and a trophy. And yeah, you got to show off a little bit.
Absolutely.
We're fishermen.
Yeah,
what are we
as
talking about? Right. But at the same time, like, I see that fish and it's so much more. Like,
yes,
we see this beautiful goldfish here. To somebody else, like was that a bow fishing fish? How did what was the story behind this one per se?
So that fish was caught on a rod and reel.
Nuh-uh.
So yes, yeah. So which is also pretty common. I did a gar mount a couple weeks ago. I actually did 3 of them. 2 of them were shot bow fishing, and one of them was caught on a rod and reel.
Oh, that's cool.
Same thing. So it's like, but and to touch on what you were saying is, it doesn't even matter the size of the fish, how impressive it is, whatever, because as much as I do 6 and 7 pound smallmouth, day in and day out, I do, I'll do kids' first fish. It's, you're not looking at an 11-inch bluegill. It's, it's a 9-inch bluegill or things like that, which is still a really impressive fish. But it's like, it really, and that's, sometimes people will ask me, they'll give me a call and they're like, hey, I'm going out on a walleye charter, or hey, I'm going to go out bass fishing, or hey, I'm going fishing, I'm doing this, whatever. What's a good size to keep in mind if I catch something that's worth mounting? Like, what do people typically get mounted?
What's your answer to that?
So
that's an interesting question.
It is. And I never really thought that people would be interested in that question because I don't view it that way. So the way that I tell people is, it's subjective. It really is. Bottom line. So I'll tell people, it's like, most people, if you're going walleye fishing, you want 9, 10 plus
It's a
pounder.
30-inch 10-pounder, right? Typically, it's
You
a
know what I mean?
30-inch
Right.
10-pounder.
Same as a 40-inch northern or a 14-inch perch or
Right.
anything like that. That's kind of what most people tend to get.
Mhm.
I'll tell people though, I'll say if it's worth it to remember it, it's worth having done.
Bang. That's
So,
awesome. That's awesome.
like for me in the house, I can't tell you how many mounts I have of fish that I wanted to get done. For example, a customer will send me a reference picture, right? I've got a brown trout in the house that I mounted.
Mhm.
And a customer was wanting to get a brown trout done. He sent me the reference pictures, and I looked at that fish and I was like, that is hands down the most beautiful fish that I've ever seen. I said, would you mind if I used that reference picture and painted one for myself? I've never caught that fish. I've never
Really?
had that fish, but I liked how it looked so much that I wanted it for myself.
Right.
And I have several fish in the house that are like that. So fish that I haven't even caught, which I mean, some people will look at that and be like, well, that's silly. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I just like the beauty behind it and the fish itself is just so it's too perfect to not have it, you know? That's
Yeah.
kind of how I viewed it. And so to keep going with what I was saying, I tell people all the time, I'm like, you know what? If you were out fishing with your kids or
Yep.
your mom or dad or your buddy or whoever, whatever, even if it was just a solo fishing trip, but you want to remember that fishing trip, you want to remember that time, you want to remember that catch, put it on your wall,
Yes.
you know?
Yeah. Hell yeah. No, you're spot on. And like she couldn't say it any better. And I've actually learned that the hard way where I've like gone into somebody like a buddy's house and I'm like, hey, what do you got that walleye up there for? It's like a 23-inch walleye.
Right.
Nice fish, right?
Right.
Last fish he caught with grandpa.
Right. Oh my gosh. I know. I have
And now,
chills right now
who's
because
the idiot? Like now I'm the idiot because I'm like, dude, why would
yeah.
you get that fish mounted? And like that was when I was young and that hit me. I was like, your mount is your trophy. So it shouldn't be, like so for me personally, I have yet to catch a 10-pound, 30-plus-inch fish vertical jigging. I will not have a walleye mounted until that fish is mounted. I won't. And I've been trying tirelessly. And we've caught fish in Lake Erie trolling and stuff like I want to catch a jigging on a jig rod. And so like for me that's a personal like trophy mount. But the mahi is the perfect example of, and even my brown trout that I got done from Milwaukee, it's not even close to being one of the biggest brown trout. Like
it's a big brown though.
It is a big brown. It is a big. It was a big fish. But the thing was, it's the memories behind it. The mahi is like a 15, 20 pound mahi. Like they make them 3 times that size.
Right.
But to us, it was like the first fish. And so I tell a lot of guys that come in the bait shop, they're like, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? For a kid, like if you've got the money for a kid to mount his fish, if he's caught a really nice fish, whether it be 20 inches or 27 inches or whatever, if you mount that fish, you literally will change their life, change the course of it because it's like, whoa, I want to talk a little bit about your business, right? We have you guys on because we like to highlight, I like to highlight what you guys are doing. And what it's just cool to see the other sides of the industry. And for our listeners, it's very cool.
Yeah.
You're kicking ass.
I'm trying.
You're a woman.
Thank you.
You're a woman, and I don't like to. I'm not saying this to be like women can't do it. I'm doing it to say it, but like you're a woman in a tough industry.
Yeah.
With a lot of people that will do things to get their own way because there's not a lot, and it happens at the bait shop too. It's a small industry. The hunting and fishing industry is a very small industry, but you've been crushing it.
No, and I'll say it. To be me and to do what I do. It's a male dominated industry
100%.
for sure. Like whether even not even talking about the taxidermy end of it, but to be someone who wants to go out fishing, to go out hunting, to be in the outdoors and to be included as much as you or other guys. It's you don't hear about it. Sure, there's hundreds and thousands of women out there around the world doing it every day, proving people wrong, whatever. And I just think that's incredible. I actually I did a podcast for Women of the Wild. And
that's
an
awesome group.
Yes, it was. Yes, that is an incredible organization.
Yeah, if there's any ladies listening or guys, if you want to get your ladies into the outdoors, whether it's your daughter or maybe it's a niece or maybe it is your wife or your girlfriend or whatever, check out the group Women of the Wild. They do some great things. They just did an ice fishing thing. We've been a sponsor for the last 2 years of their ice fishing thing.
Yep.
Right, and now you were in it this year as well.
Yep.
So, but anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good. But yeah, there's a lot. and you won't find them unless you go and look for them. There's a lot of organizations and associations out there specifically geared towards women who want to be in the outdoors, who
Mm-hmm.
want to do this, and I find it challenging sometimes myself, for me to want, like, sure, I'll get as many invites as the next guy,
Yeah.
but it's hard sometimes to go and to be a woman in a male dominated field, hobby,
Yeah.
whatever,
And a
because
lot of
it's
it is like you're dealing with them on a day to day. So
yes.
like I think not that, and honestly, like we're pretty fortunate. We're in a very good area as far as like people. Like we've got a lot of good people around us.
Yes.
So we don't deal with it. But like, I mean, I'm sure you deal with it on phone calls and haggling with price and talking about certain fish. And I'm sure guys are like, I've been fishing for 20 years. Okay, well I've been painting this fish for the last 12.
Yeah,
And
sometimes
so you got to stick up for
I
yourself.
do. Yes, I do. I've learned how to, I should
Yes.
say. Definitely in the beginning, it's a huge learning curve, Here I am answering the phone and they're like, "Hey, can I talk to the taxidermist?" Thinking I'm the secretary or
Right.
something. That's probably the most common, to be honest. They're like they're like, "Yeah, let me talk to the taxidermist. Let me talk to him." And I'm like, "Well," like I'll set the phone down and I'm like, "Hello, this is the taxidermist." You know what I mean?
Well, he is she. So what's up?
Right, yeah, period. And so yeah, and then sometimes, it's not very often, which I'm very thankful for, but sometimes I'll get the phone call or the conversation where someone is a little bit hesitant and less trusting
Hmm.
just because,
Hmm.
you know,
I
I'm
understand.
now 25 and it's like this 25-year-old girl, she probably doesn't know what she's talking about, probably doesn't know what she's doing. She's going to mount my fish, really? Come on.
Been
And
there.
so I deal with that sometimes, not as often anymore, thankfully. Um, but
you
yeah, that
you've
was
built a very good resume. Fish Studios built a very good resume. You've built credibility in our area, so it's a testament to your work, you
well,
know.
yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you, because I
And
do I do try and work hard
yeah,
and try. And honestly, the foundation for any business, whether it is taxidermy or anything, and I know, and for sure this goes for you too, but just being honest with people, just being honest,
yeah,
hardworking.
100%. Well, because at the end of the day, we're in the same position.
Yep.
Somebody can take their fish and go anywhere and get it mounted.
Mhm.
I'm just call it how it is. You can go to, if you want to go to one of the big ones, you can go to like a Gray's,
Mhm.
or what's the other one? I can't think about it right now.
King
King Sales,
Sailfish.
yeah, and they do great work. I'm not saying they
Mhm.
don't,
Mhm.
but what I'm saying is like when I call, and this is the whole reason I like small business because I'm a part of it, but I also like it
Right.
because I'm going to call you. I'm going to deal with you.
Right.
I'm going to let you know what I want with my fish.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And people can go anywhere. So if you don't build a solid foundation with honesty and the hard work and stuff like that, then you're like, yeah, you'll just get passed by because there are
Right.
other options out there. We're not stupid.
No, right. And I think it's really important also, if you are being a small business owner,
Hmm.
to have that personability with people,
Yeah.
to be able to have a conversation and to not feel like you're just another invoice number,
Right.
to not feel like you're a ticket. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, I want people to call me and leave the conversation thinking like, wow, I trust her
Yep.
with my fish. Like,
Yep.
I'm really excited and I look forward to the process type
Yeah.
of thing.
Yeah, it's important too because like so I get in the rut and I'll tie it back here, but like I get in the rut when we're charter fishing and me and Louie talk about this all the
Yep.
time. Which guys, Louie was supposed to be here. We do not have the best internet connection. We've been slammed at the shop. He's at the shop. So Louie, we miss you, bro. I
Hi, Louie.
apologize. Yeah, I apologize we had to leave you out because we were excited for this one.
Yeah.
So I apologize we left you out. But me and Louie talk about it and like during the charter season, you know, every day is another day of us fishing. So whether it's May 1st or May 30th, it's a day that we're going fishing. And
Mhm.
it's either day 1 or day 21, right? Like it just every day you come out here and you paint fish.
Yep.
The important thing to remember is every day someone new is showing up to our dock that's looking to have their trip. It might be the only time they go out on the water.
Yep.
It might be the only, fishing trip they have. So it doesn't matter what the day's like for me
Right.
because it's their trip.
Right.
Do you feel that like with these people's mounts, like when you walk in, like it's walleye season and you're like, oh my God, we've got another walleye. But every fish is different. Every
Yeah.
customer is different, right? Do you have to kind of work your way into that or?
No, I think, and I'm glad you asked that,
Hmm.
because I really truly honestly believe I'm doing what I'm built to, like what I'm made for,
Yeah.
because no matter who walks in the door or how many times I see walleye come through the door during walleye season, or perch during ice season or anything like that. Like I never really get sick and tired of hearing about the stories because every story is different. Every fish is different, you
Yeah,
know?
that's cool.
So, and I'm just excited one fish to the next, no matter the size, no matter what it looks like.
Mhm.
You know, each one comes with its own unique challenges, each one comes with its own unique paint schedule and things like that. And to see the excitement on the customers' faces,
Yep.
you know, like they've been saving their money because they want to get this done, or they've been fishing for 30 years and they're finally caught the fish of a lifetime, or any
Absolutely.
number of a reason, you know, the why someone would want to bring fish here is to see. I feed off of that excitement. And so for someone to come in here and be excited about getting
Yes.
this fish done makes me excited to have it done for them.
Yes.
And I know in the back of my mind, like I'm going to do the best job possible for
Yep.
them.
Yep. That's the same thing. Like they show every morning, you're like we're at the dock tying up the rods and the customer comes up, "What's up, Cap? It's great to
Yeah.
see you." Like you feel that energy and you're
Yeah.
just like, "Dude, my guy, like let's go." You know what I
Yes.
mean? Like
Yes.
if you're excited, I'm excited. And like the more people that are jacked about their trophy, like the
Right.
easier it is for you to be excited because you're like, "Yeah, you're going to get this back and you're going to be shocked."
Right.
Do you have a favorite fish to paint?
I do. I have a couple different favorite fish.
What do we got?
I really love doing perch. I really love perch. I do like them. I don't have any. I have a
I
brown
see
trout.
why.
Yeah. I've got a brown trout over there I got to paint. I would say brown trout are definitely a top contender just because they vary so much. They're so different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You get the real pretty ones, stream, creek run ones,
Yep.
and they're real orange, they're really yellow, they have the nice red spots, things like that. And then, you know, even the one like I did for you that was caught through the ice
Yeah, it was
and
all like brown.
silver
Yep.
and brown
Silver.
and
Yep.
so like even if
They
like
vary
it
a
doesn't,
lot.
yeah, they do vary a lot. So I would say, I mean, I there's not really a fish that I don't like to do. I mean, there's fish that I like doing more than others. Um, I mean, I like bluegill.
Because like I've seen a lot of your saltwater mounts. Like typically, that saltwater season's coming up in about 2 months when all these guys get back
Yep.
from Florida and they hit you with like 9 mounts at a time.
Yeah.
Saltwater fish have to be fun because they're so different.
Yeah, and I don't, you know, being in Michigan, we're like the most northern state possible.
Yeah.
And but so
Basically Canada.
pretty much, yeah. Like look across the river, there's Canada.
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, I really enjoy when I get to do saltwater fish just because they're all so different too.
Yeah.
And they're so bright. Like I do a bunch of groupers, I do a lot of, you know, things like that and they're just I mean, like
Even
sometimes
like the wrasse and stuff, like fish that people catch like out of the country, like
yes.
just insane. Like the thing that amazes me about those is how bright and vivid the colors are.
Right.
Like it'll be like a blue fish, but like a bright blue line,
Right.
like highlight
Like
that goes down.
blinding line.
Yes, yes.
Like it's backlit or something.
Are those tough? Or let me ask it this way: are those tougher, or even with freshwater fish? Because sometimes the shading can be so similar and stuff. Do all of them truly hold their own unique?
They all really truly hold their own unique paint
That's awesome.
patterns. And I'll tell you why. You know, you look at a saltwater fish and you see bright pinks, bright blues, bright yellows. You know, everything about them is bright.
Yes.
But if you look at a freshwater fish, they're all the same.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly. And I'll never look at a fish the same again. Going fishing with my dad or with Matt or doing anything like that. Like to hold a fish and to look at it, like I just look at it so much differently
Yep.
now.
Yep.
You know what I mean? A fish is never just going to be a fish to me ever again. Like you'll look at a perch, for example, just because I really like painting them, and you'll look in the cheeks and they've got that iridescent blue, they've got that iridescent green.
Yes.
Like they're just, I mean, freshwater fish are equally as beautiful as saltwater
They are.
fish.
I really want to get you. I really want to because we need a third fish in here. I really want to bring a good Atlantic, like a beautiful Atlantic, like with the hue down the like up on their cheek and then really all the way down the side.
Yep.
The Atlantic salmon are beautiful. They're starting to be plentiful out
Yeah.
around here where we're getting them.
Yeah.
It'd be really nice to. And our water here is so blue and it's so clean. Those fish just hold a really good color. And that's something, do you notice, depending on the time of year or where the fish come from, if they hold a different color?
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Like you know, I have this conversation often, but our walleye here that we see here are different than like
Thank you.
anywhere else that you'll
Thank
ever
you.
see walleye.
Told you
It's
so.
just
Told you so.
different. And it's like, I mean, I don't mean this in a negative way.
No.
But our walleye are very washed out. They're very pale. You know what I
Yes.
mean? There's not.
They're like white, like at times they're literally white and silver.
Yes.
Like it's hard to explain to people. Like there
Or
might
they'll
be
have
a
a lot of
green,
green too.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
but
But
they're
it,
not that like gold
yes. Like
that should, yeah.
I'll get some walleye in. Like people will go on a fishing trip in Canada, for example. I see it more
Mhm.
commonly. Um, and they almost look like a bumblebee. Like they're like the browns are so dark in the
Wow.
skin, and the gold and the yellows are so yellow and gold that I mean it's very very contrasting to what you see definitely out in Lake St. Clair or on the river.
Yeah, I really want to go catch. Like Frank has some really cool pictures because he fishes a lot, like up in like northern Ontario.
Mhm.
But I really want to bring even like a Green Bay walleye.
Yep.
Looks a lot different, but I really want one of that. Would be the one thing that would surpass a 30-inch 10-pounder. I would get one of those fish mounted first because they're so beautiful.
And they're so different.
Yeah.
They really are. And I mean, I've seen perch too or bluegills even. Sometimes you'll catch a bluegill or a bluegill will come into the shop and it's like it's almost all lavender colored. Like
Huh.
they're a light purple, no barring, no nothing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then other times I'll get a bluegill like I don't know if you could really see it on the camera, but that bluegill has really the barring is more prominent,
Yes.
less purple, more oranger, like orangey breast. I don't know how
Yes.
to say it,
No, I,
but
I get what you're I do get what you're
it
saying.
really just depends where the fish come from. I mean, what the water is like over there, things
That's
like
really
that.
cool.
From something that's caught here to across the country, like it's going to be
Mhm.
completely different. Same with pike. Pike vary a lot too.
Oh
You
yeah.
know,
Yeah, that'd
I've
be an
done pike
interesting.
where they're all brown and they've got the white spots, and then I've done pike too that they're green, like the greenest green you can imagine.
Really?
Yes. So I mean, all fish just vary
I
so
would have a hard
much.
time with either one of those. See, that's why I can't. I'm so damn colorblind. Like I respect so much what you do because I'm looking at these and I'm like, yeah, I'd feel so bad for the fish I'd be giving back to people because I can't tell. Like greens and browns to me, it's just like okay. To
Yeah.
most people, it's greens
So
and
what do you
browns. To
say?
me, I'm like,
Do you see color or are you actually colorblind to where a
I
lot of things
see.
are black and white?
My psychology
Or
teacher in
gray.
high school told me that I shout out Miss Shunk. She said that I
Right.
made my own color wheel in my head.
Sure.
She's like, so you've been taught what blue is and what yellow is
Right, like you're
and what
training
green
yourself.
is. Yeah, but like I'll lose it in the wash. Like if we're like fishing and we're
Mhm.
on a good bite and I put on a bait that I genuinely thought was purple and I'll be catching fish and someone will be like, "Hey, what are you using?" I'm using a purple bait. Catching another fish. He
Right.
looks over, he's like, "Dude, it's blue." I didn't
Right.
when it starts happening quick. You know
Yes.
what I mean? Or like if I go to pull a shirt out, I'll be like, "Oh, I'm gonna grab this green shirt," and Allie's like, "It's gray." I'm like, "What?" You know what I mean? Like it freaks me out. And then like, luckily reds and greens, I'm good.
Oh, that's good. That seems to be the most common bet.
So yeah, and typically on the water, it's different.
Okay.
So like on the water, you can really like lights and buoys and channel markers, you can really tell the difference.
Okay, good.
Yeah, it is good. Otherwise, like I would not have got like they'd have been like, "Hey, sorry, man, you're SOL."
Right.
But that's good. But yeah, sometimes it just gets like lost in the wash, and like a lot of these, like you talk about, like the pike, like the greens and browns, like a lot of times I lose that,
Right.
and it kind of bums me out. Like
Yeah.
Allie, there's like a TikTok filter out there. It like shows you what a dog's vision looks like because
Oh,
they're
I've seen
colorblind.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she'll flip between the filters, and I don't see a difference. And she's
Oh,
like, I
really?
swear to God, she's like, that is so sad. She's like, the
Mhm.
world is so colorful. I'm like, huh? I don't
Yeah,
know.
right.
It's just, I don't know. It just looks different. But I am able to tell. I hate when I bring it up, like, yeah, I'm partially colorblind, and someone's like, okay, then what color's this? Like, it's blue. Like,
Right.
I'm not dumb.
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yep.
I'm not dumb.
Well, no.
I'm dumb.
Yeah.
I'm dumb when I have to process it fast.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just like depicting everything and keeping it separate is very cool. Have you done any projects recently that like really stick out? Like a whole because people bring you projects, right? Multiple fish and
Oh,
they want
yeah.
to put it together. So
Oh, yeah.
have you done any that can come to your mind or
So, the first thing that comes to my mind, which actually is a very special fish to me, Matt had caught a coho last 2 years ago salmon
yes.
fishing, and I had done it as a competition piece. And
Killed
that,
it.
thank you. Thanks. But Yeah, that is a really, really special fish to me in a couple different ways. One, because Matt caught it,
Mhm.
and two, because that was the first time that I had put so much time into painting a fish. I probably have easily 60 hours into just the painting. I mean, there were times I'd be sitting on the
Whoa.
we're sitting on the couch watching a movie and I have the fish in my lap with a paintbrush and like a palette of paints and I'm just like
Just to
painting as
get
we're
it
watching
perfect.
TV. Yeah. Like I've got one of those headlamps on
Yeah.
that I'm like looking at the scales and I have like a magnifying glass. Like I kid you not, I painted each scale individually.
Man, it's like,
Just
all
to
right, time to go to bed. And you look up at him, blind him with the
Yeah, right.
headlamp. It's like,
Yeah,
all
right.
right, all right, all right.
And yeah, no. So I mean, I really enjoyed doing that fish and just pushing myself to see how far I could take it.
Yeah.
Do you know?
It was a remarkable fish. I'll edit it. So these guys will be
Yeah.
seeing a picture of it probably right now.
Okay.
So they can actually see the fish. But it was a remarkable fish.
Thank you.
It came out really well. The fish, like when Matt sent me the picture of it when he first caught it, he's like, "Oh, we're getting like it was a beautiful fish. Like
Yes.
when it first came out of the water, it was
Yes.
beautiful."
Yes. And you know the crazy thing is fish change colors so quickly
Mhm.
and so often.
Yeah.
Like he caught that coho and I'm like, we need to get a camera on it immediately. Because within probably 10 minutes of having it on the stringer, it started to turn dark.
Yep.
It started to get spots on it,
Yep.
like it started, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And so that was a really cool piece to do. And then so this is not related to fish,
Right.
but my dad and I went down to Florida on an alligator hunt. And
Yes.
we went for alligators and we got some iguanas. We went on a hog hunt too. And
It's awesome.
he's got a bigger house than I do. So for him, he's kind of got his own little trophy room going on.
Yeah.
And he's like, I really want the gator swimming, but I want the iguana in its mouth. Almost like the gator came up, grabbed the iguana, dove back down, and was swimming with it in the
Yeah.
mouth.
Okay.
And I'm like, that's really cool.
Yeah, it is.
So that was another really cool project. Definitely a favorite of mine that I've done. Um,
That's
I,
cool.
yeah, I mean,
You mentioned something in there that I want to touch on. And I don't want to cut you off,
no, go ahead.
but I don't want to forget because
Yes.
for our listeners out there and stuff, I hear this question in the bait store all the time, and truly, I don't even really know the right answer. I just know what I do. So maybe you can give us all the right answer. But
Okay.
you mentioned with Matt catching that fish, getting a photo of it right away.
Yes.
What is the best way? Let us know, like skin mount wise and replica wise. Like,
Okay.
what is the best way that we can help you create our memory that when I look at the picture, I can look at my fish.
Okay. So the best thing to do is if you catch a fish, you usually know when you're reeling it in or when you net it or whatever, like you know if it's going on the wall or not.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So if you catch a fish, you got it in the net or you got it in the boat or you whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and you're looking at that fish and you're like, that's going on the wall. For sure, get your camera out, start taking pictures. Definitely get a picture of the whole fish itself. I have noticed that a lot of times too is people don't realize it. You know, they're really excited catching a fish.
Mm-hmm.
You don't think, how is this picture going to look? So a lot of times people will grab it and I'll kind of show you. They'll grab it like this.
Yep.
Like this.
Yep.
By the head and by the tail. And so your hand will cover up the tail or your hand will cover up the face.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say try and be conscious of that, but like I said, I know how it goes. When you're catching a fish and you want to take pictures, that's the last thing you think of.
Right.
So, definitely get a picture of the fish as you're holding it or whether you lay it down in your boat or on a bump board, take pictures of it that way. If it has any different markings, different or cool markings about it that you
Mm-hmm.
want to accentuate in the mount itself, take pictures of that too.
Yep.
But and that's
length and all that. Obviously, the information, right?
Yep,
Length,
definitely.
girth.
As far as measurements go, length, girth, weight, those are the three that are really, really important. But it's not uncommon, and you're gonna laugh. It's not uncommon at all for people to approach me with a picture. You know, like, hey, I caught this fish, I ate it, or hey, I caught this fish
Yeah.
and I released it right away,
Absolutely.
and I didn't get a single measurement on it. It's really, you would think it's not common, or you would think it, yeah. And it's really not as uncommon as you think, I should say. Like, I definitely have quite a few people that reach out to me that have fish right now getting done that didn't have any measurements of it.
That
So,
was my mahi. You remember
yeah.
that?
So, yeah. And
We had two pictures.
And
we
you're
didn't
like,
think we
I
were
don't
gonna.
know.
Yeah, we didn't think we were gonna get them mounted. And so, like, for you guys out there that have pictures of fish that you think you might want mounted, and you don't have
Right.
enough pictures, just be willing to communicate and work with the taxidermist. So,
Right.
like, I didn't have any measurements on that fish, length, girth, nothing. I had 2 pictures, one of it on a gaff,
Yep.
so I could see the markings of the fish,
Yeah.
and one of them of Allie holding it.
Yeah. I remember
And
she's on the back of the boat. You're taking the picture from above or
from
something.
above.
Yes.
And so we took where her hands were and
Yep.
kind of guesstimated where the fish was.
Right.
Obviously made it bigger than it probably was. Duh. We're fishermen.
Yeah, you have to.
Regardless.
Hold
right?
it 2 feet.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
But we got that mount back and it was phenomenal. So even though there's a proper way to prep your fish and get it ready, don't stress out, guys. If there's a fish that you have pictures of and you want done, it can probably be done.
Right. No, and it's okay if you don't get measurements because like you were saying, you know, a lot of times people will get a bluegill done or a perch done or anything like that and I'll just tell them like, "Hey, measure the width of your palm.
Yeah.
Hey, measure the width of your
That's a good
shoulders."
idea.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like there's points of reference that you can use to get a more accurate measurement
Right.
if you don't have anything.
But if you want it perfect,
If you want it perfect
and you
for
want to
sure.
make your life easier as well as Lexi's life easier,
Yeah.
because seriously, I mean, it's the easier your life is and the more detail you have, the better the amount will be. It's just a
Right. Oh
fact.
yeah. Yeah.
So
100%.
so the more that like the guys can help you out and the ladies, but the more that the people can help you out, and that's in any really taxidermy situation.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's really good advice. Pictures. What about if it's like a skin mount? Is there a way to like save it in the freezer?
Yeah, so the best way to preserve a fish until you bring it to your taxidermist,
Mhm.
wrap it in a damp towel and then put it in
Okay.
plastic. You know, whether if it's small enough to fit in a grocery bag, cool. If not, put it in a garbage bag. But to wrap it in a damp towel, you're gonna preserve the moisture. That is the biggest thing. I see a lot of fish come in here sometimes and they're wrapped in newspaper or parchment paper. And it's fine if you don't hold it in the freezer for a long period of time. Like if you're going to hold it in the freezer probably for a week, that would be acceptable.
Okay.
But if you hold it in there any longer, what happens is the paper will draw moisture out of the fish,
Mhm.
and that's what leads to freezer burning quickly.
Mm.
So you want to keep that fish, you want to lock in as much moisture as possible in the fish. I mean, I've had people wrap them in damp towels or, you know, anything
Yeah.
like a damp
Not a
t-shirt.
soaking wet towel either. That the
Well, you
fish is
could.
close to it.
You
Well,
could.
that's true.
But yeah, or a damp t-shirt or any sort of fabric like that. And I've seen people vacuum seal them, you know,
Okay.
just
Yep.
whatever you have to do to keep your freezer dry,
Yep.
as long as you're keeping the moisture in the fish.
Cool.
And then, you know, if you bring them by, you drop off the fish. From there you can unwrap it. We can take a look at it. You know,
Still
look
take
for
pictures.
yeah, definitely take pictures
Yep.
regardless. Take whether you
The
take 110
fresher, yeah, the fresher the fish,
yeah,
fresher the colors.
yes. 110 or 100 pictures. I'll take them all. I'll take
Yeah.
them all. And honestly, you know, I have people show up or send me pictures and they're like, "This is the only picture I got." And it's like the worst picture they've ever taken. And that's fine. Honestly, because I'll tell people I'll tell people sometimes I'm like, "You know what? This picture is good.
Mm-hmm.
It could be better." So I'll
Mhm.
tell people I'll just be like, "You know what? Go on Google and Google walleye and find a picture on Google of the closest possible coloration to what you caught
Yeah.
and send that to me because it doesn't have to be your fish if it's close enough. And in that case, you know, there's got to be a point of understanding from the customer to realize that, you know what, I should have prepped better for this.
Mhm.
You know, it's
Yeah,
not my
100%.
fish, but it's close enough, and that's just how it's going to have to be. So definitely if you want to avoid
Yeah.
that, for sure get as many good pictures as you can, get the measurements. And a lot of times, I know I've said this to you before, and I tell a lot of people, if you're a fisherman, you should always keep a soft tape in your tackle box.
Yeah.
Like those, you know what I mean? And to have to put it on a bump board, yeah, here.
Perfect.
Yeah, one of these. One of these is the best. I know it's kind of a mess right now, but
Yeah, but it's easy. You can get length. You can wrap it around the fish and see
yeah,
how wide the fish is, and
right. You can get the
and it
girth with
takes up
this.
no room.
Yeah, you can get the girth. You could get the length. You can't get the weight, but
Thank
if
you.
you're gonna get measurements, you could get length and girth off of it,
Yeah.
and that is perfect. I've also told people if all you have is a bump board or like a measuring tape, you
Yep.
know, grab a shoelace. Grab a shoelace and wrap it around the fish, and then take it and measure it on the ruler.
So I got one for you.
Okay.
I got one for you.
Okay.
So Louie and I took a impromptu trip out to Lake Huron, and we ran out to the reef, and it was 28 miles. And we get out there, and we realized that we forgot really everything except rods, baits, and a net and gas. We had all the essentials.
Okay.
But that's it. We forgot most. I think we had one set of pliers that had nippers on there, but like we didn't have scissors, we didn't have pliers, we didn't have a scale, we didn't have a tape measure, we didn't have anything.
Yeah.
So of course the day has it. That's the day Louie catches his 40.5-inch lake trout jigging,
Right.
which you talk about earlier. We talk about like the preconceived trophies. A 40-inch lake trout is a trophy. It's what I drove all the way to Standard Rock for, and and it's what you continue to do now. It's a different type of fish, but it's still like a 40-inch fish. A 40-inch lake trout is a giant. And
yeah,
so,
that's like even. I mean, unless you've held one or seen one in person, like it's hard to even fathom how big that fish is.
Right, and that was a bit. So that was a big thing actually, because I just went to Standard Rock a month before that, so we had some big fish in our hands.
Mm-hmm.
We've only been out there 2 or 3 times aside from this trip, so it's one of those trips you're not expecting to catch your trophy at all, and of course when you're least expecting it, there it is.
Yep.
So he catches this fish, we bring it in, it's laying on the floor, and I'm like, something's up with this fish. I'm like, I'm like, Louie, this is a big. He's looking at it, he's like, this is huge. I go, no, Louie, this is huge. I go, dude, this is a big fish.
Yeah.
We took 20-pound fluorocarbon. We went from the nose to the tail, and we made sure it was accurate, right? Check it over multiple times. Took a bunch of pictures of the fish, took another one and wrapped it around the fish.
Yep.
Put those, obviously, if you wrap it around the fish, it's going to be shorter than the length, hopefully.
Yeah.
So Louie put that stuff in his pocket. We finished fishing the rest of the day. We get back in, all the stuff's in the back seat of the truck. Where else would it be? So we pull out the ruler, extend that fishing line, and we were like, holy shit, we got a 40.5, like it's 40.5 inches. Like Louie's looking at it over and over and over.
Right.
He's like, dude, it's 40.5 inches. We would have had no clue.
Right.
So like use anything, shoelace, fishing line,
anything you have.
Cooler. I know guys like on their boat, they've caught like sturgeon and they haven't had their tags. So they'll literally take a Sharpie where the nose was and where the tail was, and they'll
measure it later.
Measure it later.
Yeah.
Or like I've had guys, stack fish on coolers. It's 2.5 coolers long.
Right. And then they measure
it. Like whatever you got to do, figure it out, because it can be turned into a trophy.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's, I mean, unless, if you don't have that on you, you've got fishing line on you.
Yeah.
You've got some form.
It always just seems to be when you're not ready for it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like you guys, like Matt's done this trip. Matt's gone up and done the Coho trip how many times?
Right.
And, this time he goes up, you guys are in the middle of the woods, nowhere, middle of nowhere.
Right.
Only thing you've got really is your phone.
We're standing in a river.
Yeah, exactly. The only thing you have is your phone. And it's like, oh my God, here's like one of the most beautiful Cohos that we've ever seen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, now it's a award-winning fish.
Yeah.
Just from some cameras. So it's cool. It's cool to see how far this has really come along. Do you have is there a certain species of fish that you haven't done yet that you really want to do? Or is there like a project that you want to do, whether it be like a freshwater stringer mount or like a saltwater mount? So like a mount that I want in my house. Hopefully you get to do it one day if I get to catch these fish.
Mm-hmm.
But I've always wanted a marlin with a school of like 2 or 3 tuna and mahis in front of it.
Cool.
Like a whole piece.
Yes.
I think that'd be super sick.
Yeah. Any mount that tells a story is really cool.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Something that I have not done yet and that I really look forward to. At this point, I don't know that I'll get it in unless I go and catch it myself, but I would absolutely love to do a hogfish.
Oh, I guarantee you'll have a hogfish.
Like
we caught one. We caught one this year and it was too small. We caught one. We set up so they're very.
You can spear them.
If anyone, yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
You almost so. If anyone heard that has hogfish, we have listeners that go down to Florida often. So if you guys want a hogfish done, hit her up.
I want one.
Hogfish has been on my bucket list since before I even owned a freshwater boat. Like since before I was probably 14 or 15.
Sure.
And I saw one of these fish and they were beautiful. And they live in the reefs, so they're very hard to catch. So like this year we're in Marathon and we pull up on this random reef and we'd already caught a bonefish offshore, like not 30 miles. We're in 35 foot of water. We were probably a couple miles out.
Yeah.
And we caught a bonefish and I was like, well, that's weird. That's a trophy fish. Like it wasn't big, but it's a bonefish.
But
Like
it's
people
something
fly
that people
around.
go after.
Yeah, they fly
Yes.
from like around the country, around the world to go
Yeah.
fish the Florida Key in the flats for bones.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, that's weird. The very next drop, my father-in-law brings up a hogfish. He's like, oh, this thing's fighting pretty good. It was probably like this big.
Yeah.
And it was sick. I'll put a picture in here.
Yeah.
It was sick. It's just a little guy. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, if that was double the size, it was like double. I was like, if that was double the size, we'd mount it. Because a full-grown hogfish has attributes that even like juveniles don't have. Like,
Yes.
Like they're stunning.
Yes.
Um,
Like I've seen pictures
Yes.
of them online. Obviously, I've never seen one in person.
Yep.
I would love to go down there and catch one or spear
the
one
best way is
myself.
to spear them.
Yes.
But Matt might like this. You might be able to convince Matt into this. So the one time I walked into Bass Pro Shop in Isla Mirada, I was a Worldwide Sportsman, and there's a row of ice fishing rods. And like I'm in the tackle business, so I kind of get what's useful in certain parts of the world. And then I'm like, okay, these people don't ice fish. What am I looking at?
Right. Like this doesn't make sense.
So I asked the guy, call him over. I'm like, dude, what are these ice fishing rods for? Like I'm from Michigan. I know what these are.
Yep.
They're very simple perch rods. Like what are these things? But they had a little backbone to them. I was like, is this for bait fishing? What's it for? He goes, no, we call it hog dogging. I'm like, what's hog dogging?
Yeah.
He goes, bro, hear me out.
Right.
He goes, you set up over a reef. He goes, you got a snorkel and a mask, so you don't have to have like the full dive suit. He goes, you have a snorkel and a mask. He's like, you swim over the reefs, you dive down, you see if you can find your hogfish, come back up, get fresh air, bait your rod, go down, and you fish it with a rod and reel underwater. Underwater. You just drop it right on their head. You fight them underwater.
Wow.
I'm in.
That would be so fun.
I'm like, dude, where can I get a hog dog and charter? He's like, doesn't exist. I'm like, oh.
Right, it's probably just like a local thing.
Yeah, it's probably what guys just do for fun. I mean, it's got to be somewhat more than local. There's probably 75 rods in there, 100 rods. And like typically, once you get your stuff, you've already got it. But I thought that was hilarious. It's not
like you'll
just
never know.
Right. And he said it's not just for hogfish. Like they do it for a lot of those reef species that live in the reef that, from a boat to try and get a bait to them is too hard. But anyway, the moral of that story is I want to catch a hog. Like a hogfish is one of them that I need on my trophy wall.
Yeah.
So hopefully one day I'll have, if you don't get it, I'll have it for you.
Okay. Sounds good. And it's so funny to say that because it's like, like you saying this, for example, you're like, man, this is a dream species to catch.
Yes.
I want to catch a hogfish. I want to catch this. I want to catch that. And then I sit here and I'm like, man, I want to paint this.
I know. Like, it's weird.
Whether I catch it or not, I really would love to paint it.
And I would really love to eat the hogfish.
Yeah.
Have you ever had hogfish?
I have not had hogfish, no.
I paid $20 for a hogfish sandwich down there, which I was like, I ain't not spending $20 on a sandwich. And I was like, I really want to try a hogfish. So I spent $20 on this blackened hogfish sandwich.
What does it taste like?
Not better than mahi. It's firm. It's a white meat. It's very mild, but it was perfect with like the blackening seasoning. It's just a really good. I mean, all snappers, whether it's a mangrove snapper or you got mutton snappers and lane snappers and red snapper. I mean, they're all good.
Yep.
A hogfish is just part of that family, but they are delicious.
Really?
That is funny though. I've never really thought about that. Like, I want to paint this.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of how I am. Like, I want to catch this because I want to put it on my wall. Like, I've got a list of fish that I want to catch because eventually one day I want to have a trophy. I want to have a room that's just designated to trophy and drinking tequila.
Yeah. Yep. You'll have a bar. You'll have a bar with a sailfish over it.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. I blew my sailfish opportunity.
Yeah.
But that happens. That's fishing.
Yeah.
I got a couple more questions here. We're running out of time. But is your favorite thing about this business creating the memories for a lifetime? Is it dealing with all the fish and wildlife? Is it, the opportunity to go places, whether it be like these SCI events and stuff like that? Is it a mixture of all of it? What is it? Why do you love
all
this?
Of it. So to create the memories, I feel like is inaccurate because the memories are already created. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I actually really like the way you say that. You're almost I don't want to say immortalizing either, but it's
in a way,
similar to that.
But the thing that I like most, and I guess what inspires me the most is, I've heard stories and I've done fish for people where Oh my gosh, if I think about it too hard, I'll cry. Like I did a king salmon for a customer of mine who's actually now a dear friend of mine.
Mhm.
Um, I had done a fish for him, and it wasn't anything spectacular, super crazy. I think it was like maybe a 20-pound king.
Mhm.
It wasn't anything crazy, but it was still a really nice fish. And he didn't really say much about it. He brought the fish in. We did a mount. That was that. I called him 8 months later. Hey, your fish is done. Whatever. And he walks in the door and he sees the fish and he starts crying. And I'm like, oh no, he hates it.
Oh no.
Yeah. I'm like, he doesn't like it that bad.
Right.
And I'm like I didn't really know what to say. I'm like, I can
Oh,
repaint it. I'm
wow.
thinking in my mind like how fast I can repaint it, how quick I can get it back to him, this and that,
Yeah.
whatever. And he grabs me and he hugs me, and he was like, "This was the last fish my son caught before he got into a car accident."
Dude, that's
I know.
unbelievable.
I have chills right now even thinking about it, and
Yeah,
it's
me too,
like,
because it brings me back to the story I told earlier. Like it for so many of us, and I'm gonna let you get right back to it, but for
yeah,
so many of us, like this is what we do. Like you
yes,
were born and raised in it.
yep,
Matt was born and raised in it. You know, I was brought up in it,
yep,
and now it's like, but for so many of us, this is like what we do. It's the outdoors, and it's
right,
not, it's never catching the fish. I can't explain this to people enough that like aren't in this.
yep,
It's not catching the fish. It's not shooting the deer. It's not killing the turkey. It never is.
right,
It's always the experience that leads to it.
yep,
So like you literally captured all that in a what, 20-pound salmon?
right. And it's it's stories like that. It's instances and encounters like that that really, like, I know I've said this earlier. This is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
100%, because to take something that has passed away or
Mhm.
was released or whatever the case may be, and to bring it back to life, so to speak, which is like the most impossible feat if you can
Right.
think about it. Because to, whether you're religious or not, whatever, but to take something that was already perfected, something that's
Yep.
already perfect in its own way, something that God created, and to try and replicate that is the most frustrating and difficult thing to accomplish.
Wow.
Because, even no fish is ugly, but sometimes you'll catch a fish and it's ugly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to try and replicate that, or even if you catch the most beautiful fish, to try and replicate that, it's still perfect. It's so, and I will
Yeah,
sit
that's
there. I
cool.
will sit there for hours. I'll spend hours painting it, and I'll sit there for hours looking at it. And I'm like I have to know when to quit because I will go crazy. I'll look at it and I'll be like, it's just not right. It's just not how I want it to be.
Yeah.
It's not where it's supposed to be at. And it's like no matter what I do, because I'm imperfect, we're all imperfect. To try and create something perfect out of imperfection is the most frustrating job in the world.
But isn't the imperfection what makes it perfect? Is
Yeah.
that kind of the irony behind it? Because you're spot on. Like you'll see an ugly fish or a deformed fish or a fish without a fin or what,
Yeah.
you'll see a messed up fish, and
Mhm.
you get to look at it. We take a picture of it, we look at it, clean it, eat it, it's out of our mind.
Right.
You're sitting here looking at this fish. I mean, some of these fish are sitting over here looking at for
Yeah.
a couple days.
Yeah.
So it's like you really do get to see, oh, this part's messed up, but this part of the fish is beautiful, or
Right.
this or that. I think you nailed it. I've never really thought about, when we've spent a lot of time, a lot of nights drinking,
Yes.
or where some of these funny
Talking.
conversations would come up, and we've never once been like trying to, how you just said it, trying to,
We've never talked about it in a serious way like
no,
this. Not that we're talking about it in a serious way, but in this
right,
sense.
no, but I'm with you, and I think a lot of our listeners are with you in the sense, like, yeah, these things are like, they are God's creation, like they are this
Yeah.
beautiful thing, and like, good luck replicating it.
Right.
It's on you.
Like it's perfect how it was, and then
Yeah.
I have to try and recreate that.
Hmm.
It's I mean, I do my best, and there's so many amazing taxidermists out there doing it with
Oh,
birds,
dude, yeah.
deer, fish. I mean, like there's so many incredible taxidermists out there
Yep.
doing it, and it's like I'll look at their stuff and I'm like, wow, like that is godlike. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's really just what I strive for every day is like I want tomorrow to be better than today.
Hmm.
And I'm always trying to learn new techniques. I'm always trying new things painting wise because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, my real love of it is my love of art and my love of the outdoors. And I mean to combine both of those and to make a career out of it is
Yeah.
like every day I'm living the dream. Even on bad days, even my bad days are good days.
Yep. Yeah, no doubt. Man, you nailed it. That's really cool. You are living your dream and
I
you've built
am.
it. You've built it.
Yep.
Congratulations. And
Thank you.
there's a lot of stuff and a lot of hard work and there's just a lot that goes into doing something like this. And when I started seeing it kind of come together, like when you guys got the place and then you start seeing everything kind of come together, it's like, dang, like you're gonna, if this is something that you really want to do and you really want to put your effort into, you're gonna crush it. And
Yeah.
I would say that you've got a really, really hell of a good start.
Thank you.
Where's it gonna lead? What's the goals? What do you want to do? Do you want to grow this thing? Do you want to?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Hell
For
yeah.
sure. I mean, when I first started the fish studio, which was only a little over 2 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
I had a 5-year plan. I'm gonna look at this in 5 years and see where to go.
Yes.
Whether I should change something, keep going forward, whatever the case may be.
Yes.
2.5 years into it, I'm I'm ready to expand for sure.
Really?
Yes.
I mean, you guys are already crushing. I'm gonna move this here. You guys are already crushing it. Check out that Euro mount there.
Yep.
Dipped Euro mount and stuff like that. So I mean, you guys are doing a lot of things. Where is it gonna go? Where do you think it's gonna go? Because it's gonna change. We'll do this podcast a year from now,
I know, and
and
I'll
I'll
still look
play
back
this
and
clip. I'll play this clip that I'm about to ask you, and I'd love to see how accurate it is. But like right now, like what is it? More fish? Is it more animals? Is it a bigger workspace? Is it more workers? Like what do you want to do?
I would love to build a bigger shop.
Sweet.
I would love the dream obviously is to have a shop where you walk into and there's the most amazing showroom that
Yep.
you see.
Absolutely.
And then behind that's the workroom. I would love to have a shop that is big enough to have that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd really love to just take on more work. Like I'm ready for it's a lot to do as one person now, but I'm ready. I'm ready to grow. I would like to expand,
Yeah.
take on more work, take on, more things like that. And I think I can do it, honestly. I really do.
I've got no. I mean, we've talked off camera plenty of times, and
Yep.
the business strategy and the foundation and how this business was built and stuff. It's built to last. It's built to
Yep.
take care of the customers. The reason it's built to last is it's built to take care of the customers and keep the customers, right?
Yep.
You make it's like you said. I painted a fish. I painted a salmon for this guy.
Mm-hmm.
That's now my dear friend. Like
Yes.
those are the
Yeah.
relationships you make, especially like when someone wants their mount done right. If they're going to be spending, $1,000+, they're probably going to be talking to you once or twice a week.
Sometimes,
Right?
sometimes.
Like, hey, how's this going? How's this going?
I know, and sometimes some
Maybe
people
not.
just
Don't bother your local taxidermist. You want to make sure it's going the right direction.
yes. And I do keep my customers updated. I'm very, I'll usually shoot them a text or shoot them a message, give them a call, and just say, hey, your fish is coming up soon.
Yeah.
Just wanted to give you a heads up. Like I very much so try and keep my customers in the loop when possible. But the opportunities that it has given me, like doing what I do, has like I've walked away from it with so many close friendships and so
yeah.
many people and connections that I've met that will be lifelong friends and lifelong
Oh, yeah.
connections. And it starts out by, like sometimes of course I have the customers that they'll cut me a check, hey, see you in 6 months, and I don't speak to them in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But other times, someone will bring me a fish and then next year they'll bring me a couple more and then a couple years will go by and they'll bring me another fish and then over time it's like, hey, you been out fishing? Hey, how's the family? How's your wife doing? How's this? How's that?
Because when he comes to bring a fish in the one year,
Right.
he's carrying this baby in. And then when he brings it
Right.
back a couple years later, the kid walks in. And then, shit, man, 8
Right,
years,
yeah.
8 years down the line, you're going to be mounting that kid's fish. And it's like,
Yes.
holy cow.
Yes. And everything that I'm doing now is going to go to the kid or you know what I mean? And so
That too. Yeah, that too.
like,
Get passed down and stuff. Absolutely. I didn't even think about that.
Way.
Yeah. Yeah, he'll have his own. I don't know when there'll be time to mount any of Dad's fish between mounting Allie's and the baby's fish.
Yep.
But it'll be all good. Hey, I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your busy day to come sit in here and talk. We're already at an hour.
I know. It feels I could talk about this for hours. We could sit here for 8 hours and I think there wouldn't be a moment of silence.
No, it wouldn't. It really wouldn't, just because there's like so much. Like I'm looking around and there's so much that I still want to ask about. I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be asking. A lot of the times we have people asking for repeat guests. So I'm
Yep.
sure we'll be sitting right here in this spot. We will have Louie next time. I'm not leaving Louie out.
Yeah.
He likes doing these, and I felt bad that he was stuck at the shop. But do me a favor. Let all of our listeners know where they can find you.
So I'm located in East China, which is, if you know where Pete is, I'm about 10 minutes away from Pete upriver.
Yep.
Um,
How can they get a hold of you?
Go on Facebook. I have a Facebook page. I have an Instagram page. Just type in the Fish Studio. Um, if we're friends on Facebook already, you know me as Lexi Vaughn.
Yep.
But that's really the best way. I mean, my phone number's listed online, my email address. Any way that you have to get a hold of me, feel free to shoot me a message, give
Yep.
me a call, reach out to me that way.
Yep.
I do a lot of shows. If you guys go to any SCI shows or you know Outdoorama or the Ultimate Fishing Show and stuff, you know you can
Ultimate
usually.
Fishing Show next year, maybe.
I've been thinking about it
I think
heavily.
there might be a booth with some space in it.
I would love
We'll
to have
see.
a booth. I would love to have a booth. So hopefully next year you guys can catch me at there or at that. But yeah, just online.
Just chilling.
Online.
Just chilling.
Yep.
Well, you guys heard her. Obviously, you know I'm not going to leave you out to dry. Drop down below in the description. You'll see her link to her Facebook page. You'll see a link to her website. Or not her website, but to her Instagram.
Facebook.
You got a website? Do you have a website?
I don't have a website.
Not
actually.
yet. That would be tough.
So we'll touch on this right before we get off of this. So when I started the Fish Studio, I knew for sure, I'm like, I got to create a Facebook page. I have to have an Instagram. I have to have a business email, you know? And I went back and forth about the website thing so much. And I don't have a huge social media presence. I would love to have a bigger social media presence, but like, I just don't. It's honestly the last thing that I think about. Like sometimes there will be months between my posts. You know what I mean?
It's just hilarious because you're very artsy. And so I think it would come natural, but it's not.
5 to 10 fish a week. You think I could take pictures and post any of them? Never.
Nah.
Why would I?
But you'll find her description below.
Yep.
It'll be down there to her Facebook page in any way that you really need to get a hold of her. Guys, I can't thank you enough. Hey, by the time this comes out, our derby's going to be going.
Yeah, get in on that.
Get out there and get signed up if you're not signed up. It's $10. It's St. Clair River only. We've got 153 people signed up. Whoever wins this thing is going to be the king/queen of the river. And I will say Natalia won it year one. So I'll never call it the king of the river ever. Because technically the queen won it the first time around.
Right.
So get signed up for the derby. You know where to find us in the bait shop. Guys, if you get time, again, check out Lexi. Check out the Fish Studio. Any fish mounting stuff when deer season rolls around, Euro mounts, stuff like that. They do an awesome job. Lexi, thank you again.
Thank you for having me.
Tight lines,
Thank you, guys.
Yes. Tight lines, everybody. And we will see you all next week on the Hook One Pod. Adios.
See ya.